Second battle of my little 30 Years of War quad expedition here. And we've got Lutzen. Done this before also in Musket and Pike. This is one of the originals from the game, from the quad, as opposed to White Mountain. What do we got that's interesting here? You know, I was looking through the historical information here. It's a Miranda piece. And it's so much scantier than what you get from the Musket and Pike series as you go forward. I'm not sure what the original quad came with. In probably very little more S&T. So SPI was never that big into this era and detailing information on it. And honestly, there really isn't that much information. So their style of this is how I introduce it, right? This style of presentation is fairly sparse, to tell you the truth, a little bit on how the different armies operate. But what's really funny about it, and I should be saving this for the review era, but I don't know if I'll get there, so, you know, those of you who watch the playthroughs get a lot more, is that it actually contradicts what the game presents in some ways. It tends to indicate that these formations were a little bit more mobile than they actually are in terms of using the checkerboard formations and such. And, you know, honestly, this corresponds rather nicely with the Musket and Pike stuff at a much higher level than what the historical analysis as given in here seems to do. And yes, I'm putting pauses in like I'm James Kirk. Okay, I've had too much vodka. So, special rules on Lutzen. We have, well, first of all, strangely enough, they give a historical deployment and the deployment on here. Now, 1726. Let's take a look at that. Yeah. The two deployments, the initial deployment on the map and the historical deployment, I think are exactly the same. For no given reason. Alright, but whatever. We have reinforcements, a pile of troops under Pappenheim, and then further here. I thought Pappenheim was dead by now. Where did he die? And we have a supply train for the Imperials there. The Imperials are in red, the Swedes are in blue again. Again, yes, in Breitenfeld, right? That supply train is going to be 10 victory points. It may also affect the morale. We'll see if that's covered later on in this. The Swedish Cav is all charge capable. And the rules are a little different here, but I don't think intentionally. If the Cav attacks with Cav in this, they all charge. That works fine because they're all charge capable. Well, if the Cav charges, if any of the Cav charges, they all have to charge. And that's the same as the Poles worked. But there's a specific role here. When infantry combine with attacks on the charging Cav, the printed strength is of the automatically disrupted Cav does count as losses for the attacker in the event of disruption and exchange. That's different from White Mountain, which said it always counts. And personally, I'm not sure whether it makes sense or not. Basically, the way this is written, what it would imply is if the Cav charges and takes hits, and there are no infantry involved, an exchange could eliminate the Cav. I don't know which way to play that, actually. We have fog again with visibility. And the visibility has the same kind of effect in White Mountain. Movement allowance halved. It will be automatically clear on the first turn for the Swedes to indicate kind of their sneak attack type position here. Not entirely, but the fact that they move forward under the fog more effectively. But then it's checked for on the Imperial turn, which comes second, and then stretches into the next turn. So it's kind of a little bit strange there. You kind of wish they had done a first turn for the Swedes only or something, I don't know, and started with the Imperials as the first movers. That might screw up the system, though, because the Swedes are overall on the offensive here, and the way the sequence of play works, is there anything other than the fog? No, there really isn't. So only the fog really has an effect. So they've kind of, yeah, I think they'd be better off shifting, giving the Swedes a pre-game move. It's not like they're going to reach the Imperials there. The one thing that it does say, though, or that does affect, is that the Swedes can open fire with their artillery at the beginning of the game. However that works. You know, these are kind of annoyingly bound. There's one staple. Oh no, there's more than one staple. It's just it didn't go through. Okay. And we've got a little chart for the fog, which hopefully is actually the same, because it's all distributed strangely. So turn 3 is good, but turn 4 is not. I'm hoping that it is correct, but it's kind of sort of random. And what you see here is probably a combination of fog and then the smoke again and nightfall coming. However, turn 14 is fairly low on here, but higher on here. I don't know. And 12 and 13 are lower here. I again suspect the rules are correct and that if anything they screwed up on the map, but it's hard to tell because this map, well, they didn't copy the graphics. They only copied this part maybe, and not really, because there's no little pictures. There were little pictures in the original. They copied the maybe there weren't little pictures in the original. I don't remember. Demoralization. The Swedish army is 65 strength points of infantry. Cav don't count in this. And for the Imperials, it's 45 infantry. But these are both flexible. They're flexible by the death of the king rule. For the Swedes, if somehow Gustavus dies, you're going to roll on this table, which, if the Swedes have not broken yet, changes the demoralization level. And they get a -1 on the table if they've lost more strength points than the Imperialist infantry strength points. And it's possible that could immediately demoralize the army if it's a bad roll. And it's possible that it could increase their demoralization rate. It's also possible that even before they're demoralized, they could end up with a penalty on their disruption removals, or possibly even a bonus. On the other hand, they're going to pay a big victory point penalty for losing Gustavus. So it's probably not something you want to try to do. There's some discussion about that in the player's notes, and I was just like, whoa, man, that's pretty crazy. There's an optional rule for putting Pappenheim on the board early with his troops. And then for the victory points, they're kind of skewed a little differently from normal. It's 1 point for each strength point, but 2 points for each infantry strength point if the army's already been demoralized when they're lost, which is to simulate the pursuit value. The fact that if the army's already routing and you're chasing it and you hit it some more, you're no longer probably just disordering the units to the point where they are no longer battle ready. You're probably capturing and or killing people with it. And artillery is worth 5 in both cases for captures. And then leaders have their values, which are, it looks like it's about 5 per level of the leader, I think, in general. But I'm not positive about that. They're called out by specific leaders. So, for example, Wallenstein, well, Pappenheim's worth 15, and he's only a 2-point leader. Wallenstein is going to be worth 25. He should be a 3-pointer in this, I would hope. No, he's only a 2-pointer. Not as good as Gustavus in this. Whereas, what do we have? 10 points for Brahe, which I think is Tycho Brahe. I know that he was wounded during the 30 Years' War. I didn't realize he was a significant enough commander to be put on the field. It could just be a, hey, that would be cool if we have him on here. He's only a 1-pointer. And let's see, Bernhard von Weimar. Wonder where he is on this command. He's down here. He's a 2-pointer, but he's worth 20 victory points. And Gustavus is going to be worth 40. And that's about it. We have some new terrain here. Some little forests. Are they forests? No, they're woods. Yeah, but woods only exist in Nordlingen. So we'll assume they're forests and you can't enter them. I don't know. I don't know which way to look at them. And we also have, this ditch along the road. The road itself can negate terrain. The ditch is 5 movement points for cav, 2 for non-cav, but no effect on combat, so you can't position yourself behind it and get any kind of advantage there. You've got what looks like a stream there, and a little bit of hills up here to anchor the Imperial position. Couple of options to take, according to the player's notes. One is to attempt an outflank, and one is to just charge straight ahead. The Swedes are under essentially a time limit because of Pappenheim's forces coming. This battle is being done, let's see, in November. Wallenstein thought that the campaigning season was over and had broken up into encampments, and Gustavus surprised him. This is the battle Gustavus died in, which is why there's special rules for him dying here. I guess that's about it until we trying to follow the command control rules here. The Swedes opened fire with their artillery preliminary fire. They managed to hit one thing. Got a 2-to-1 attack here. Swedish cav is actually, there's very little of it compared to the Imperials. There's very little Imperial infantry, however. But the Imperial infantry units tend to be heavier in general than the Swedish ones. The Swedish ones are a little faster, though, so that'll be somewhat of an advantage there. We'll take care of that 2-to-1 attack. I don't know if I should be doing something that extreme charging out here, but that's what I did. Some of the units have kind of fallen behind a little bit, but I've gotten command to some of them. Moving Brahe over here to take command over there. You want to keep your units kind of clustered together because if they're all next to each other, it works fine. And let's check the fog. This could go badly for the Swedes if the fog doesn't affect, if the fog's not in place early in the morning, because it means all the artillery fire can take place. But there isn't going to be any. The guns are all up here and along here. And this is really the defensive center for the Imperial side. Now that Swedish cav is facing like a 4-to-1 attack on it, which is very likely to hurt them, and it does. But you see, the thing is they're just disordered. So they can pull back, and the rest of the Swedes can come forward and engage those cav. The rest of the Imperial forces, though, are kind of pulling back a little bit, refusing the flank. There's some danger to losing the wagon, but I want to draw the Swedes in, see how far they'll come on that advance. Where does Pappenheim come in? That's one of those kind of things you should know, right? He's going to show up somewhere. 0109 to 0128. So somewhere between here and all the way over here, which is pretty much where I'd want. And the Swedes mainly advanced over to this side, hitting the cav. They got a 3-to-1 attack here. Didn't do them any good. They recovered here. Elsewhere, you can see they left something of a channel open for some of the guns to fire, just to kind of break things up. I forgot to make a rally check for that unit. And it rallied. Well, that would be last turn. Now we have to check the fog. And again, I think I'll try to use the rule book as opposed to what's here. So we're on turn 2. And turn 2 is a 1 through 3 on here, and that's the same as here. We do not have fog, which means the Imperials can open up their guns and try to disrupt the attack. Well, the Imperials get a couple of shots off, one successful there, but some heavy attacks along here trying to push that Swedish outflank out of the way. The player note suggests that the Imperials should not attack, but honestly, this is a game where you want to take your opportunities where you can, and the Swedes kind of opened themselves up here, and the Imperials charge forward. Over here, I've got a strong Imperial cav wing here, which I would like to bring into play, but when I started trying to figure out what the odds would be, they didn't look good at all. Okay, so our Swedes still holding the line down here, but lurching forward and really smacking that Imperial advance up. We even took out a couple of cav, but more importantly, perhaps one of their leaders over here. Sort of weak spot, and I decided I wanted to kill the leader for the victory points that can provide, rather than killing this unit, which would have been a more certain kill. But I had like a 4-to-1 against this, and the 4-to-1, well, no, it was already a disordered unit, so it was a pretty guaranteed kill. The question was whether I could kill both. Well, this would have ended up a 1-to-1 because I would have had to commit the leader and the big unit over here for what, a 2-to-1 attack. All right, let's check the weather. Says here it's only on a 1. I think that's actually correct, but I'll look it up. I got a 4. That's pretty certain not to. And we push that forward as the Imperials again launch an attack. They did some gunfire. You can see they've kind of chewing things up, but here they launched an actual attack. They also launched one over here trying to get out in both directions. Wallenstein moved over here and rallied 2 units. Yeah, 2 good units. So he's strengthening their line. Now, Gustavus has a 4-point unit here. 1, 2, 3, 4. He can't quite run over to there. There's not really, I think, any cav in this general region. This guy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He can't quite make it to there. You don't just have to put those into your zone. You have to actually move into the hex to destroy the wagon and affect the morale there. So, well, we'll move into turn 4 and see what the Swedes can do. As you can see, though, they're not really winning the fight in a massive sort of sense. They've got the advantage, but we got some significant troops coming in here. Bunch of cav under Pappenheim, and then we got some reserve infantry way down at the end of the game. Okay, the Swedes sweep in, start hitting the Imperial line over here pretty hard, and also that little cav detachment that came out, well, that got hit as well. You can see, though, that the Swedes are taking their licks from it as well. I haven't rolled my recoveries or the weather. Let's see, Weimar. Just getting some of these guys in the back. Got some down here that are eligible. I actually used a few cav charges. I usually don't remember to. But if you've got a close odds attack, it's worth doing, I guess. And we got the big +3 there. And that didn't work. Alright, what's the weather? Well, supposedly it changes on a 1 to 2. I think that's correct. We've got fog. I'm going to start flipping the weather counter over for fog because I came in today this morning and I wasn't sure which way it was. And now the Imperials, well, they get to do their counter blow. And you have this kind of interesting... Attacking is really, really potent in this system. So you've got this withdraw your damaged units, throw your new reserves in, and pick on the enemy units. And, well, where you can pick on already damaged units, you can start collecting up real casualties that count. On the other hand, where you start picking on undamaged units, you're stripping away the offensive power for the player's next turn. So you got this kind of neat choice there. And there was something else I wanted to talk about that, but I can't really remember what it is. It was in my mind, just before I started babbling about this one piece, and then I forget it immediately. So there's an importance to reserves in this in a way that a lot of games don't really have them. So if you take the Napoleon's Art of War, which this is sort of based on, according to the design notes at least, it seems almost flavorless. You throw your maximum points in, get your best odds table. That behavior doesn't work as well in this system. In this system, you want to throw what it takes to disorder the enemy. If you can get great odds, that's fantastic, because then you're not going to get hurt, right? There's no DXs on the 6-1, and there's fairly limited numbers on the higher odds. But you want to keep your reserve, because if you do get DX'd, you can pull units out, and then you have fresh units for your next attack. And, well, that's something that's a subtlety that usually doesn't come out in such simple games. Artillery shows some telling effects here on the Swedish disordered units. Just managed to crank 3 of them out of the way. Plus, Gustavus is somewhat at risk here. He's sitting on top of a small unit, which was dumb of me. You never really want to do that. It makes it easy to attack. Now, the advantage, of course, is he can't be attacked by many units there, and he lends a lot of strength, so that becomes a 5-point unit. That's going to be hard to destroy all at once. Well, after making a big deal about the fog, and I didn't even walk away from the table, I'm just playing right here. I forgot about it and ended up not playing with it. So I'm going to deactivate the fog for the Swedes' turn, because it's an unfair advantage if I only remember for them. The Imperials swept down off the hill here with this thought of maybe getting to these cannons and turning them against the rear of the Swedes. They had some good odds, and you can see they launched their attack there. Here, they had to extricate this unit, these guys, this unit with Wallenstein, so they tried to kind of pull out. This guy got very lucky. He managed to hold off all these units without getting disabled. That was just a 1-2 though, because he's such a big unit. So there was a fair chance that he could, well, 1/3, and a 1/3 chance he could disable, well, some of them. The way the rules are worded, he would disable all of them, or disorder all of them. I don't think that's what is meant. I think that's an error. But I do have these guys who are in trouble here. On the other hand, there's a lot of troubled Swedes hanging around in the same area. And the Swedes definitely have to do something about this advance here. That's going to be a tough call. Do I move forward with my main striking force and hit it, and thereby let things kind of clear out here? I don't know. After the Swedish turn, they've managed to throw some forces in the way here and push some over here. The problem here is, of course, one, Gustavus is on top of something that can be killed again, and killed easily, because there's artillery here. There's no zone of control, though, for the Imperials yet there. If they shoot this, they can bring troops into play, though, and kill Gustavus, which would be a pretty hefty blow. We also have at least, yeah, both of these cannons are going to be able to shoot at short range. These guys are pretty much screened now. The wagon's in danger as we're pushing through here, but we can see, well, this poor guy's all alone now. Well, poor guy, he's going to do a lot of harm. One thing is, the Imperial Cav has been very, very badly harshed, and the Swedes have taken their hits on that, but they've taken infantry hits. Infantry hits are the only thing that count for demoralization, and the Swedes need 65 to be knocked out. Now, they're way away from that. That really is a big hunk of their army, to tell you the truth. And likewise, the Imperials have taken none. They're just giving up victory points. But now the army starts to arrive under Pappenheim. A lot more cav. And that may just be turning the tide here. Command control rules are really telling against the Imperials here. They were down to just Wallenstein. But Pappenheim swept onto the board. That'll help a little bit. Still, it means that forces aren't able to move around quite as effectively as they otherwise could. And also, you have this sort of constant issue of little guys who get separated like this Swede here are going to have a hard time keeping up with their unit as it attacks. If you can keep these kind of more ponderous formations, it's helpful. Wallenstein came right up and attacked Gustavus directly. Now, he had a fair chance. This was just a one-to-one attack, but any result, which is 2/3 of the time, well, any result except for an AD, which is what he actually got, which is half the time, he would have hit Gustavus. But if he got an exchange, which is 2 of those results, he doesn't kill him right away, and that's what he was seeking to do. Also made some attacks here, really loosened up the Swedish position in the front of the guns. I don't think they can continue that head-on attack that kind of happened by accident, actually. And now with the Imperials pulling back onto the hilltop, they're going to fire here. They feel like they have the advantage. They've been really chewing up the Swedish infantry here. What are we at? 22, 30, 41. And we're not too far away from breaking their army anymore. And they've done absolutely nothing to the Imperial infantry. That's all cav down there. Versus the Swedish infantry. And leaders. A couple of leaders are dead, which are worth a lot of victory points. But the Imperials are going for winning this battle by breaking the Swedish army, it seems like. It's not like I had a terrible, plan for this. The closest I come to planning is, oh look, those guns are kind of unprotected. Let's go charge forward. And it forces the Swedes to do something, and then it causes things to kind of break loose. I'm very much an opportunist. I don't like pre-planning and figuring out everything I'm going to do.